The darkness of the frontier station felt wrong the moment Captain Mara Saul stepped through the broken airlock. Her boots touched the metal floor with a soft clang, echoing through the empty corridor. It was supposed to be a peaceful outpost shared by humans and the Vadran Empire, a symbol of the treaty that ended the border wars. But now the lights flickered, the walls were scorched, and the smell of burnt metal drifted through the air. Something violent had happened here. Something big. And the Vadran had called it an accident. Mara lifted her visor and scanned the hallway. No bodies. No signs of life. Yet the station felt as if it was holding its breath, waiting for something to start again. Her team followed behind her, Sergeant Cade, silent and steady as a mountain, and Lena Park, their young technician who kept glancing around as if monsters were hiding in the shadows. Mara didn't blame her. She felt the same tension pressing on her own chest. They were here because a distress signal had reached human space hours earlier. A single weak transmission, static, then a voice saying, "They broke the treaty. The humans must know. Consequences coming." Then silence. The signal came from this station, and that alone was enough to send diplomats into panic. The Vadran claimed the call was faked. They said no human should approach the area. Yet Mara's orders were clear. Find the source. Recover any survivors. And discover the truth before the Vadran did. The corridor ended at a sealed bulkhead. Deep claw marks were carved into the metal. Cade touched them with his armored glove, eyes narrowing. These were not human-made. Nor Vadran-made. Something else had been here. Mara moved forward and forced the door open manually. Inside the command center, consoles were shattered, chairs overturned, and the large viewing window was cracked like spiderweb glass. In the middle of the room, a hologram blinked weakly, switching between symbols. When Lena approached, it stabilized for a moment, showing a shaky figure, Vadran, wounded, scared, hiding behind a console. His voice played again, clearer than before. They broke the treaty. Humans must prepare. We tried to warn. The message cut off as the hologram glitched and collapsed. Lena stared at the projector with shaking hands. This couldn't be faked, she whispered. This was real. Someone didn't want this to reach us. Before Mara could respond, a deep rumble shook the station. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The floor vibrated under their feet. The rumble kept growing, louder and louder, turning into a roar as if something massive was moving outside the station hall. Cade raised his rifle. Something's docking with us. Mara's helmet display flashed an alert. A ship was attaching itself to the outer ring, no transponder, no clear shape, only a huge heat signature and a strange energy reading she had never seen before. The Vadran had warned humans not to come near this place. Maybe this was why. Get ready, she said quietly. The power flickered once more and went out completely. Emergency red lights snapped on, painting the hallway in blood-colored shadows. The roar outside stopped. For a few heartbeats, there was nothing but silence. Then something began crawling through the ventilation shafts. The sound was faint at first, metal lightly tapping, dragging, scraping. Then more taps. Then many. Like dozens of sharp feet moving together. Lena clamped a hand over her mouth. Cade aimed at the ceiling. The shaft above them bulged. Move, Mara shouted. They dashed out of the command center as the vent cover exploded behind them. Something dark and fast dropped to the floor with a screech. Mara didn't turn around long enough to see what it was, she only caught a glimpse of too many legs, too many eyes, and skin like polished stone. Whatever it was not Vadran, and it attacked the moment it hit the ground. Cade fired a burst that lit the corridor with bright flashes. A screech answered. The creature backed up, then leapt onto the wall and vanished into another vent. More claws began scraping through the walls around them. They're all over the station, Lena cried. They were waiting. Not for us, Mara said, breathing hard. For whoever sent that message. They reached the hangar entrance, but the doors were stuck half-closed. Sparks spat from the control panel. Mara knelt and tried forcing them apart with her suit's servo strength. They began to slide, slowly, painfully. Then Lena screamed. The creatures dropped from the ceiling again, 3 this time. Cade stepped between them and Lena, firing non-stop, forcing them back but not stopping them. The shots only slowed them. These things were built for war. Mara drew her sidearm and fired at the one coming closest to her team. It flinched, screeching, and climbed the wall again. They were not trying to kill. They were hurting. They want us alive, Mara realized. Why? The hangar doors finally opened wide enough. Cade grabbed Lena's arm and pushed her through. Mara followed and hit the emergency close. The doors slammed shut just as something crashed into them from the other side. Inside the hangar, Their ship, the Resolute, sat dark but intact. Mara opened a channel to the AI. No response. Systems tampered. Someone had been here before them. The creatures pounded the hangar doors, each hit louder and stronger. Metal bent inward. Lena turned to Mara, eyes wide with fear. Captain. What if the Vadrin didn't break the treaty? What if someone else did? What if those things are the real threat? Mara looked at the denting metal and the growing cracks. The creatures were trying to get in, yes, but not to kill. To stop them from leaving. To stop them from taking the warning back to human space. They broke the treaty, Mara said quietly. But not the Vadrin. The hangar doors split. And the creatures poured through. The hangar doors burst open, and the creatures rushed inside like a dark tide. Their bodies moved with a strange mix of speed and silence, as if every step was planned. Their eyes glowed pale blue in the dim emergency lights. Mara felt her heart hammering but forced her voice to stay firm. They had one chance to survive. They had to reach the ship's inner core and restart the systems manually. Without power, the Resolute could not take off, and without escape, they would never warn Earth about what was coming. Cade, with me, Mara shouted. Lena, stay behind us. They sprinted across the hangar floor. The creatures crawled across the walls, the ceiling, even the support beams. Some kept their distance, watching. Others followed but did not attack right away. It was as if they were trying to keep the humans from going deeper into the ship but also pushing them somewhere else. Mara did not understand their behavior, and that uncertainty tightened her grip on her rifle. A creature dropped from above, landing in front of them with a loud crash. Cade fired at its legs, making it stumble, but the creature recovered too quickly. Mara aimed at its eyes. The shot made it recoil, screeching in pain. She didn't wait for it to recover, she kicked it aside and kept moving. Behind them, Lena's footsteps were uneven. Fear made her stumble. Cade grabbed her arm again, steadying her. Mara, Lena gasped. They're not killing us. Why aren't they killing us? Focus, Mara yelled. Ask questions later. They reached the Resolute's lower access ramp, which was half open as if someone had forced their way in earlier. Mara slid under it first, aiming her rifle into the darkness. The ship was silent. Dead. No hum of engines. No gentle pulse of lights along the floor. It felt wrong. The Resolute was home, always steady, always alive. Seeing it cold made her chest tighten. They entered quickly, and Cade forced the ramp shut behind them. The metal shook as creatures slammed against it, claws dragging down its surface. The sound was sharp enough to scrape at the nerves. Lena flinched. They'll get through. That ramp won't hold for long. It only needs to hold long enough for us to start the ship, Mara said. Move. The corridor inside the ship was dark except for faint red emergency strips along the floor. They headed toward the engineering core. Every step echoed. Every echo felt too loud. Mara kept scanning the shadows, waiting for another surprise. She trusted the Resolute, but right now something dangerous might already be inside. When they reached the engineering hatch, Mara entered the override code. The door slid open slowly, revealing the main reactor chamber. It was supposed to glow with white-blue light. Instead, the entire room was cold and black. And someone was already inside. A Vadrin officer sat against the far wall, clutching his abdomen. His skin was pale purple and his breathing shallow. He flinched when the humans entered, trying to raise a small tool as a weapon, but his hand shook too much. Mara raised a hand, signaling Cade to hold fire. She stepped closer, not lowering her weapon but softening her voice. We're not here to hurt you, she said. We came because of the distress call. The Vadrin's eyes widened. His voice was thin. The treaty is broken. Not by us. Not by you. Mara crouched beside him. Who broke it? Those creatures? He shook his head weakly. Not creatures. Soldiers. Biotech soldiers. Made by a third empire. The Court Dominion. They want our people to fight again. They want humans and Vadrin to destroy each other. When both sides are weak, they will invade. Mara felt the blood drain from her face. They're trying to trap us here. They don't want the truth getting out. The Vadrin nodded slowly. We tried to warn your leaders. But the Dominion attacked this outpost first. They copied our signals. They sent false messages to make it look like we betrayed you. It was all planned. A crash echoed from the corridor behind them. The creatures had reached the inner hall. Lena gasped. Captain, we need to start the ship now. Mara turned to the Vadrin. Can you help us power the core? He tried to rise but collapsed, coughing. His voice trembled. My strength is gone. But the core is locked. By Dominion sabotage. You must reset it manually. Deep in the coolant chamber. Cade looked at Mara. That's the most dangerous part of the ship. I know, Mara said. The pounding grew louder. Metal started bending. The Vaudrin grabbed Mara's arm with surprising strength. Human. Listen. If you escape this place, warn both our peoples. The Dominion will move soon. And their soldiers are only the beginning. Mara nodded. We'll carry your warning. I give you my word. The Vaudrin exhaled shakily and released her arm. Then go. The door behind them split as claws punched through. One creature's head shoved into the opening, its eyes glowing. Cade raised his rifle. They're coming in. Mara pointed toward the coolant chamber hatch. We finish the restart and get out. No matter what. She didn't know if they could make it. But she knew one thing for certain. If humanity didn't learn the truth soon, the consequences would be far worse than anything in this hangar. The coolant chamber hatch opened with a loud hiss, and cold mist poured out like white smoke. The room beyond was lit only by a weak blue glow from damaged coolant pipes. The air felt heavy, colder than the rest of the ship, as if the chamber were holding the Resolute's dying breath. Mara led the way inside, her rifle raised, her senses sharp. Cade entered behind her, pulling Lena in last. The pounding from the corridor grew louder, and the creatures were almost through. They had only a few minutes at best. Mara scanned the chamber. Pipes hung loose from the ceiling, dripping coolant that froze into thin ice on the floor. In the center of the room, a control pillar blinked with red lights. It was the manual reset console for the ship's power core, but Dominion sabotage had locked it. They would need to override the lock with a physical key. A key they didn't have. Lena ran toward the pillar, her breath forming a mist. I can bypass it, she said quickly. But I need time. A few minutes. Maybe less if nothing interrupts me. Mara and Cade exchanged looks. Something would definitely interrupt her. The creatures were not going to stop. Do it, Mara said. We'll hold them off. Lena's hands shook as she opened the panel and began pulling out wires. Sparks flashed. She winced but kept working. Mara and Cade moved back toward the entrance. The hatch was still open, but Mara stepped to the side and hit the control to close it. The heavy door began to slide shut, but a sharp claw forced through the gap. The door jammed with a horrible grinding noise. A creature pushed its head through, then its torso, bending metal around its armored skin. Cade fired first, 3 sharp bursts into its face. The creature shrieked but kept forcing its way inside. Its long limbs scraped across the floor as it pulled itself through the half-closed door. Mara, it's still coming, Cade yelled. Keep it back, Mara shouted, firing as well. Their shot slowed the creature but did not stop it. Its legs unfolded like knives, slicing deep marks in the floor as it crawled closer. It was bigger than the others, stronger too. Maybe a higher class of soldier. It was built to break through defenses, and it was doing exactly that. Behind them, Lena yelled, 2 minutes, I need 2 more minutes. 2 minutes felt impossible. The creature lunged. Cade threw himself in front of Mara, blocking the strike with his forearm guard. The impact sent him sliding backward, boots scraping ice. He grunted but stayed standing. Mara fired into the creature's throat. A small burst of dark fluid sprayed out, hissing when it hit the cold floor. The creature screeched and retreated for a moment. Then it approached again, this time slower, studying them. It had learned that humans could hurt it. But it had also learned something else: humans were small, soft, and tiring. Mara, Cade said quietly, they don't want to kill us. They want to keep us from leaving. She understood. Every move the creature made was controlled, almost careful. It wanted to disable them, not destroy them. We aren't letting them win, Mara said. The creature suddenly leapt onto the wall, then onto the ceiling, its limbs gripping the pipes with unnatural strength. Mara and Cade stepped back, aiming upward. It crept toward Lena, who was completely exposed at the pillar. Lena, look out, Mara shouted. Lena glanced up just in time to see the creature drop toward her. She screamed and fell backward. Mara fired non-stop, hitting the creature again and again. Cade ran forward and tackled it, driving it into the floor with full force. The impact shook the room. The creature thrashed, claws swinging wildly. Cade held it down with all his weight, struggling to keep its limbs away. Mara grabbed one of the loose coolant pipes and swung it like a metal club, smashing it across the creature's head. It roared, legs kicking, and threw Cade off. But the blow had slowed it. Mara, Lena shouted. It's almost done. Mara turned and saw the pillar lights shifting from red to yellow. Almost there. The creature lunged at her. She rolled aside, grabbing her rifle as she slid on the icy floor. The creature's claws grazed her shoulder, tearing part of her armor. She hissed in pain but forced herself to stay focused. Cade got to his feet again, blood on his forehead. "Finish it," he shouted. "I'll keep it busy." He charged the creature again, slamming into it with his full strength. They crashed into a coolant pipe that burst open, spraying freezing vapor everywhere. The mist blinded them, turning everything into a white blur. But Mara heard Cade shout in pain. "Cade! Cade, where?" His voice came back, strained but alive. "I'm fine. Just finish the reset." Mara turned toward Lena and saw her slamming her hand onto the final bypass switch. The pillar lights flashed yellow, then green. A loud hum filled the chamber as the Resolute's core rebooted. Warm lights flickered on overhead. The engines roared awake somewhere deep in the ship. "We did it," Lena cried. The creature heard the sound too. It screamed, a loud, angry, furious noise, and leapt toward the pillar, trying to stop the restart. Mara fired her last full magazine into its chest. The creature staggered. Cade tackled it again, driving it back. Its limbs scraped against the floor as it fought to stay upright, but then its strength finally gave out. It collapsed with a heavy thud, twitching but unable to rise. Mara didn't wait for it to recover. "Run," she shouted. "We have to get to the bridge." Lena grabbed her tools and sprinted for the hatch. Cade pushed himself up, breathing hard but smiling despite the pain. "Mara," he said, "remind me to never fight one of those things alone again." She grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "You can complain later. Move." The coolant chamber hummed around them as the ship came alive again. But the Dominion soldiers were still outside. And now that the Resolute had power, they would be coming fast. The humans ran. They had won one small battle. But the war, the real war, was only just beginning. The hallway lights flickered as Mara, Cade, and Lena ran toward the bridge. The ship's systems were still warming up, sending power unevenly through the corridors. Every few seconds, the lights flashed from bright to dim, making shadows stretch and jump along the walls. The floor hummed under their boots. The Resolute was waking up, but the Dominion soldiers were waking up too. Behind them, something crashed into the coolant chamber hatch. Then another hit. Metal groaned and began to bend. "They're coming through," Lena cried. "Keep running," Mara ordered. "Once we reach the bridge, we can seal the whole section." Cade limped slightly, but he kept up. His fight with the creature had left deep scratches in his armor and a long bruise across his ribs. Still, he pushed forward without complaint. He always did. They reached a sharp turn, and Mara stopped them with a raised hand. Her helmet display showed motion. Something ahead. Not many. One. Maybe two. She motioned for silence. They pressed against the wall. The hallway ahead was dark. Too dark. The emergency lights there were dead. Only a thin glow from the floor strip showed the way. Mara stepped forward slowly. A soft clicking sound echoed in the dark. Then a shape crawled from the ceiling. Mara aimed her rifle, but the creature was not like the others. It was smaller. Thinner. Its limbs were trembling. Its eyes flickered like dying lights. It struggled to hold onto the ceiling, slipping once before catching itself again. Mara and Cade aimed, but Lena grabbed their arms. "Wait," she whispered. "It's injured." The creature dropped to the floor, collapsing on its side. A deep burn mark spread across its chest. Coolant or blood, Mara couldn't tell, dripped slowly from the wound. It let out a weak, glitching sound, almost like a broken radio. Cade frowned. "Is it dying?" "No," Mara said, "it's rebooting." The creature twitched, its limbs trying to reset themselves. Dominion biotech didn't die easily. But this one was slow. Weak. Vulnerable. And scared. It lifted its head and looked at them, but it didn't move to attack. It only watched, its breath shallow and uneven. Lena took a small step closer. "Captain. I don't think it wants to fight." Mara hesitated. She had seen the Dominion soldiers tear through metal like paper. Seen them overwhelm the hangar. Seen them hunt without mercy. But this one looked almost alive. Almost helpless. The floor shook. Loud footsteps echoed behind them, many footsteps. The creatures in the coolant chamber had broken through. "Mara," Cade said sharply, "we don't have time." He was right. They could not stay. They could not help. And they could not risk the small creature signaling others. Mara took a slow breath. "Move. Quietly." They stepped around the injured creature. It did not react. It only watched them pass, its dim eyes following their movements. Lena whispered, "Do you think it understands us?" "No," Mara said. "But it understands pain." They continued down the hallway. Behind them, the injured creature let out a soft, broken cry. Then silence. Finally, they reached the lift that led to the bridge. Kate hit the control. Nothing happened. Lena checked the panel. "The power's on, but the lift is locked. The Dominion must have sealed it when they first boarded." Mara clenched her jaw. "We need another way." "There is one," Cade said. "Maintenance ladder. 2 decks up." Mara nodded. "Go." They turned down a narrow side corridor. Pipes ran overhead, and the lights were dimmer here. The ship felt older in this section, like they were walking through its bones. The maintenance door was stuck slightly open, bent by something hitting it earlier. Cade forced it wider, and they slipped inside. The ladder climbed high into the darkness. Lena looked up and groaned softly. "I hate heights." "You'll climb anyway," Mara said. "First. I'm behind you." Cade took the rear. Lena started up the ladder, shaking but moving fast. Mara followed. Cade climbed last, sealing the door behind them as best he could. They ascended in silence, the sounds of metal bending and distant screeches echoing through the ship. Halfway up, something clanged below. Cade froze. Mara looked down. A creature was crawling into the maintenance shaft. It hissed and began climbing after them, its limbs moving fast. "Cade, move," Mara shouted. Cade climbed faster. The creature followed quickly, its claws scraping the metal rungs. Lena was almost at the top, fumbling with the hatch handle. "It's stuck," she cried. "It's jammed." Mara looked down again. The creature was getting closer. Too close. "Cade. Switch places with me," she ordered. Cade didn't ask why. He climbed above Mara, passing her on the ladder with practiced ease. Mara dropped down 2 rungs, placing herself between the creature and her team. She braced her feet on the side supports and aimed her rifle straight down. The creature lunged. Mara fired. The blast echoed through the shaft, blinding in the tight space. The creature screamed, slipping but catching itself again. It climbed faster, furious now. "Mara," Lena shouted. "The hatch is still stuck." Mara fired again. The creature dodged, moving with unnatural speed, its claws slicing sparks from the ladder. It was almost close enough to grab her leg. "Lena," Mara yelled, not looking away. "Kick the hatch open." "I'm trying." "Kick harder." Lena screamed and kicked with all her strength. Something snapped. The hatch flew open with a metallic clank. "Cade. Go," Mara ordered. Cade climbed through the opening. Lena followed. Mara looked down one last time. The creature was inches away. She fired a final burst, hitting it square in the face. Its head snapped back, and its grip slipped. For a moment, it hung in the air. Then it fell. Mara didn't wait to hear the impact. She climbed up and pulled herself through the hatch. Cade slammed it shut behind her. They locked it with a manual bar. For a long moment, none of them spoke. They had made it to the bridge deck. But everything was too quiet. Lena swallowed hard. "Captain. Where is the crew?" Mara stared down the empty hallway, her stomach sinking. "I think," she said slowly, "we're about to find out." The bridge was dark. Not just empty, but dark. No blinking lights on the consoles, no hum of the ship's mainframe working. Only the emergency red lighting pulsed weakly, casting long shadows across the control panels. The crew should have been here, running the Resolute, making sure the ship was ready to launch. But the bridge was deserted. Mara's boots clanged softly as she stepped inside, scanning the room. Cade and Lena followed close behind, both silent, their eyes darting around nervously. "There's no one here," Lena said, her voice small. "Doesn't feel right," Cade muttered, tightening his grip on his rifle. Mara's eyes flicked across the panels. She walked toward the captain's chair, where the console should have been active, where the crew should have been working. Instead, it sat empty, cold. The only sound was the faint beep of malfunctioning systems, echoing across the room. She bent down, checking the control panel at the chair. "Systems are offline," she muttered. "Whoever was here last. They didn't even try to restart the core." "Maybe they didn't have a chance," Lena suggested, looking over at a table in the corner where a stack of reports had been thrown aside, papers scattered like they'd been hurriedly abandoned. "Maybe." Mara straightened up, scanning the rest of the room. "But there's more to this. Someone was here, and they wanted it all shut down." A noise behind her made her spin around. Cade was pointing at the viewports. "Look." The giant viewports of the bridge usually showed stars, black space, and planets. But now, All they showed was dark, nothing but blackness and a faint glow from the distant gas giant in the system. But something wasn't right about the view. Something felt wrong. Mara narrowed her eyes. Get closer. They moved toward the viewport, their steps silent on the cold floor. As they approached, Mara felt the pit of her stomach tighten. Something was moving outside the ship. Something big. Do you see it? Lena asked, voice trembling. Mara could barely make it out at first, but then the shadows shifted. Huge shapes, too large to be normal debris, moved around the Resolute. Ships. Massive, dark, shadowy ships that seemed to have no edges, like they were made of pure darkness. They moved so slowly, like they were waiting for something. Or someone. The creatures outside. The Dominion. They're here, Mara whispered. Cade grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the viewport. Captain, we need to get the hell out of here. Now. Mara pulled away, staring out into space. We can't leave yet. We don't know what they want. They don't just attack. They wait. They plan. A loud thud echoed from the hallway. Then another. And another. Lena gasped, her face pale. They're coming. Mara didn't need to tell her to get to the bridge controls. Lena was already running. But when she reached the console, she froze. I can't get the ship moving. It's locked. The Dominion must have set something in place when they boarded. It's like they turned everything off manually. Mara cursed under her breath. They were stuck. The Resolute was locked down, and whatever ships were out there were getting closer. Can you bypass it? Mara asked. Maybe, Lena said, voice shaky. It'll take time. I'll need to get into the core systems, but I have to break through their encryption. How long? Mara asked, not sure if she wanted to know the answer. At least 10 minutes to bypass the main controls, maybe more, Lena said, her fingers shaking as she tapped at the screen. I'll do my best, but this isn't going to be quick. The thuds grew louder. Something, or someone, was coming closer. We don't have 10 minutes, Mara said. We need to buy you time. Cade, secure the entrance. Lena, stay on that terminal. Cade nodded, his face grim. Got it. He turned and hurried toward the bridge doors, locking them from the inside. The security systems gave a faint beep, sealing them off for now. Cade ran back to the center of the room and turned to Mara. What now? Now we wait, Mara said. Her heart beat fast. They had no choice but to hold their ground. And when they break in, we fight. Lena was already working furiously at the console, pulling up multiple windows and typing commands too fast for Mara to follow. I'm in, she muttered, her eyes glued to the screen. Now, I just have to. A loud crash interrupted her. The sound of claws tearing through metal. The doors shuddered violently. The creatures had found their way to the bridge. Mara stepped back, gripping her rifle tightly. Stay ready, she whispered. The door began to bend. The metal groaned. Another crash. Mara's eyes darted to the viewport again. The shadowy ships were even closer now. No more waiting. The Dominion had found them. They weren't here just to watch, they were preparing to board. They're coming, Mara said, voice low. Get ready. The door splintered. One final push, and it would be gone. Mara tightened her grip on her rifle, positioning herself near the center of the room. Cade stood beside her, ready. Lena didn't stop working. She didn't look up, she didn't have time to be afraid. Another crash. The door fell. The creatures stormed in. Their bodies were a blur of sharp limbs, dark, slick skin, and glowing eyes. There were more than Mara had expected, dozens of them, pouring into the room like a tide. Lena yelped in fear but didn't stop typing. Mara aimed at the first one that leapt toward her. She fired, hitting it in the chest. It staggered, but it didn't go down. It screamed, a horrible, mechanical screech, and charged again. Cade opened fire as well. His shots were on target, but still, the creatures kept coming. They were fast. Too fast. And there were too many. Lena, Mara yelled. Can you finish the override? Lena didn't look up. Her hands flew over the keys. Almost there. She called out. Mara shot again, taking down another creature, but she knew they couldn't hold out forever. The creatures were getting closer. She didn't know how much longer they had. But they couldn't let them win. The bridge felt like it was shrinking. Creatures poured in through the shattered doorway, their claws scraping against the floor, their bodies moving with unnatural speed. Mara and Cade fired non-stop, stepping back inch by inch as the Dominion soldiers advanced. The sound of gunfire echoed across the room, mixing with the sharp screeches of the attackers. Lena kept typing as fast as she could, her fingers trembling, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't look at the creatures. She didn't dare. Her world had become the glowing screen in front of her. Mara, she shouted. The Dominion encrypted every system. I'm breaking through, but it's... A creature landed next to her. Lena screamed. Cade reacted instantly, slamming into the creature before it could grab her. They both crashed against a console, sparks bursting from the impact. Cade pinned the creature with one arm and fired at point-blank range. The blast shook the bridge, and the creature went limp, but another one rushed in. Mara spun around and fired, hitting it before it reached Cade. It skidded backward, screeching. But more were coming. Too many. Cade, Mara shouted. Fall back to me. He shoved the dead creature aside and ran to her, panting. Sweat dripped down his forehead, and his armor was cracked in several places. But he still lifted his rifle. Lena kept typing, her voice shaking as she spoke. 30 seconds. Just 30 more. We won't last 30, Cade muttered. Mara didn't answer. She fired again, taking down another creature. But for every one that fell, 2 more crawled over its body. Their motions were unnatural, almost synchronized, like a single mind was guiding all of them. Another creature leapt. Mara shot it mid-air, but its momentum carried it into her. She hit the floor hard, her rifle sliding across the room. The creature rolled, then sprang toward her again. Mara! Lena screamed. Cade ran forward, tackling the creature before it reached the captain. They hit the floor, wrestling. The creature slashed its claws across Cade's arm, cutting deep through the armor. He hissed in pain but kept fighting, punching the creature in the head until it stopped moving. Mara pushed herself up, lungs burning. She grabbed her rifle again. Cade, how bad? She asked, seeing blood drip down his arm. Bad later, he grunted. Fight now. The door burst wider as even more creatures forced their way inside. They were coming from behind, above, even squeezing through vents. The bridge was becoming a cage. Lena's voice rose in panic. Captain, I can't hold the encryption. They're trying to take control back remotely. Mara fired again and yelled, then break it. Cut their access. Anything. I'm trying. The ship shook suddenly, one hard jolt that rattled every console and knocked several creatures off their feet. Cade grabbed a wall to steady himself. What the hell was that? Mara's eyes widened. They're ships. They're docking with us. The Dominion was preparing to board the Resolute directly. This attack on the bridge, was only the beginning. A creature lunged toward Lena. Mara spun and fired without hesitation. It fell at Lena's feet, twitching. Lena gasped for air.
I need just 10 more seconds.
You have 5, Cade said. Mara stepped forward, unleashing the last of her magazine. The creatures slowed. But not enough. Another one leapt. Mara swung her empty rifle like a club and hit it across the skull. It staggered, and she kicked it backward. Cade fired beside her, but his shots were slowing. Ammo was low. Mara, Lena yelled suddenly. I've got it. I shut them out, we have manual control. The main console lit up bright blue. Systems rebooted. Engines roared through the ship like thunder. The Resolute was alive again. Mara, I have helm control, Lena cried. We can move. Then move, Mara shouted. Lena slammed her hand on the thruster controls. But nothing happened. What? No, Lena frantically typed commands. Something's wrong. Something's still holding us in place. It's external. Cade swore. The Dominion ships. They latched onto us. They're holding us down. Mara looked toward the viewport. The shadow ships were now right beside them, massive and silent, like giant insects clinging to prey. They're locking the hull, Mara said. They're trying to cut us open. More creatures forced their way into the bridge. There was no time left. Lena, Mara yelled. Open all thrusters. Overload if you have to. I can't. It will tear the ship apart. Then tear it apart, Cade shouted. Better us than them. Lena hesitated, shaking. Mara put a hand on her shoulder. Do it. Now. Lena nodded, tears in her eyes, and slammed the power override. The engine screamed, the whole ship shook violently. The deck vibrated so hard Mara thought the floor would split. Warning alarms flashed everywhere. Cade braced himself. Come on, break. The shadow ships outside began to shift. Their grip weakened. A deep cracking sound rumbled through the hull. Then something gave way. Lena let out a gasping cry. We're free. Mara grabbed the chair and shouted, "Punch us out of here, full burn." Lena hit the thrusters. The Resolute launched forward with a violent jerk, throwing several creatures off their feet. Some slid across the bridge, slamming into walls. Others clung to consoles, screeching. Cade fired at the ones still standing. "Get off our ship." The Resolute shot forward, breaking the Dominion's hold. But the Dominion wasn't done. Their ships turned. They were giving chase. And they were fast. "Captain," Lena whispered, staring at the radar as multiple red dots closed in, "they're coming after us." Mara took a slow breath. "Then we outrun them," she said. "Whatever it takes." The Resolute shook as the Dominion ships followed. They were fast, faster than anything Mara had seen before. Their sleek shapes glided through space like predators. The crew of the Resolute had just barely broken free, but they weren't safe yet. The chase was on, and the Dominion would stop at nothing to bring them down. Mara's heart raced as she watched the ship's sensors light up with red dots. The Dominion ships were closing fast, and their weapons were already primed. She glanced at Lena, who was frantically working at the control panel, her fingers a blur as she tried to adjust the ship's course. "Lena," Mara shouted. "Can you outrun them?" I'm trying," Lena gasped, sweat dripping down her face. "We're not fast enough. They're adjusting their speed." The Dominion ships were too close. If they didn't get out of range soon, there would be no escaping the oncoming fire. Cade gripped his rifle tightly, his eyes never leaving the viewports. "They're going to open fire soon." Mara nodded. "We need to make a move. Now." The Resolute was fast, but not fast enough to outrun the Dominion fleet. They needed something else. Something unexpected. Mara's mind raced. She glanced at the star map on the ship's display. Then, her eyes locked on the one thing that might save them, a nearby asteroid field. If they could make it through, the Dominion ships would have a hard time following without risking their own ships. But the field was dense, too dense for normal navigation. "We're taking the asteroid field," Mara said. Cade turned toward her. "What? That's suicide." "It's the only chance we have," Mara said, her voice firm. "We'll take the field, make a hard turn, and lose them in the rocks." Lena's hands froze on the controls. There's no way we can navigate through that safely. It's too dangerous." "We don't have a choice," Mara snapped. "Do it." Lena hesitated, her fingers hovering over the controls. Then, she took a deep breath and slammed the throttle forward. The Resolute shot ahead, its engines roaring as they powered through space toward the asteroid field. The Dominion ships weren't far behind. Their weapons flared, launching a volley of energy blasts toward the Resolute. The first shot hit the ship's shields with a powerful jolt. Mara felt it in her chest, a painful reminder of how close they were to being torn apart. "Shields holding," Lena reported, her voice tight with concentration. "But they're weakening." "Keep us moving," Mara ordered. "Don't stop. Don't slow down." The asteroid field was getting closer. The massive rocks loomed ahead like silent giants, their jagged edges sharp against the black void of space. The field was dense, with no clear path through. It would take everything they had to survive it. Cade gritted his teeth. "Hold on tight." Lena veered the ship sharply to the left, weaving around the first asteroid. The Resolute shook as it dodged and weaved, narrowly avoiding collisions. Each maneuver was a gamble. One wrong move, and they would be torn to pieces. Mara gripped the chair in front of her, her knuckles white. The Dominion ships were still following, their weapons firing, the blasts lighting up the blackness around them. Another shot hit the Resolute, and the ship shuddered violently. The shields flickered but held. "How much longer, Lena?" Mara asked, her voice strained.
I can't see a clear path ahead," Lena said, fear creeping into her voice.
"It's too tight, there's no way we're making it through." "You have to," Mara shouted. "We're not dying here. Focus." Lena's fingers flew over the controls as she adjusted their trajectory, steering the Resolute through the thick of the asteroid field. Rocks the size of small moons loomed around them, and they scraped past them, inches from disaster. The Dominion ships were close now. Too close. Mara could see the flashes of their weapons firing, their massive forms lurking just behind them in the darkness. "We're not going to make it," Cade yelled. "They'll hit us before we get through." "We will," Mara said, determination in her voice. "Just stay with me." Lena swerved hard to the right, narrowly missing an asteroid that was just too close. The Resolute groaned as its engines pushed harder, breaking through the last layer of rocks. The ship was battered, but it was still intact. The Dominion ships followed, but they were now in the heart of the asteroid field. The massive rocks and debris slowed them down. They couldn't keep up with the agile Resolute in this tight space. Mara's heart pounded in her chest as the field thinned out ahead. They were almost through. They were almost free. Then, suddenly, the sensors beeped. No, 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 Lena gasped. They've launched pursuit pods. They're coming after us on foot. Damn it. Mara cursed. Cade, get to the weapons. Lena, take us to full speed. Cade ran toward the weapons console, readying the turrets. He gripped the gun tightly, preparing for the fight of their lives. We're not done yet, Captain. The first pursuit pod shot toward them, a sleek, deadly craft moving at incredible speed. Cade fired the first shot. The energy beam hit the pod, knocking it off course and sending it spiraling into an asteroid. It exploded on impact, but more followed. Dozens of them came. They're everywhere, Cade shouted. But the Resolute was finally through the asteroid field. The Dominion ships were far behind now, and the pursuit pods were still trapped in the field. The Resolute shot forward, and the engines hummed with power, carrying them out of danger. Mara stared at the view ahead. The stars stretched into infinite space. They had done it. We're out, Lena whispered, her voice breaking with relief. Cade let out a long, exhausted breath. We're actually out. Mara sat back in her chair, exhausted but relieved. We made it, she said quietly. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Lena looked up from her console, her face pale but proud. We'll keep running. We'll warn Earth. Mara nodded. Yes. We will. The Dominion's not done with us. But we've shown them one thing. What's that? Cade asked. Mara smiled, though it was thin and tired. Humans aren't as easy to wipe out as they think.